Before we kind of move on to the main theme of this video, I thought it'd be imminent and important to talk about the changes that we haven't addressed in the 700 gallon just yet. Obviously, we've got plenty of tetras in there, around 90 of the black line tetras. We ended up adding in some Siamese algae eaters. I actually also ended up adding in 5 gourami, my pro gourami from my 2000, because I just really like them and I thought they'd go really well in this tank. And then of course my 12 Ultim Angels are now currently in here. What you might be noticing though is a couple of things: an explosion of growth in the plants, but more importantly, the new plants that we added. See, recently I went back to Aquascaping Canada and put in another plant order. Almost all of the plants that I ordered were variations of sword plants. Because in a 700 gallon tank, we have room for the largest of large bushy plants, which tend to be swords. And I thought, let's get a bunch, see what kinds we actually like in this tank, because things are really truly coming together now. However, their placement isn't going to be all in the background, and like most sword plants typically would be planted. Instead, I thought, let's put the biggest species in the back and kind of maybe stagger them all throughout the aquarium. Like you could notice there's some swords here. This one's starting to flower. We've even got a sword right here, front row and center, because in nature, the plants don't arrange themselves based off of size. In nature, obviously, they'll go wherever they do best. And in this tank, I thought some of them might end up being somewhat visual blocks to the rest of the tank, but for the fish, it's just going to look absolutely amazing. You can even see the Amazon swords in the background here have already started to transform. You'll also notice there are some dead leaves. Those aren't necessarily the dead leaves, they just wilt away because these plants were grown immersed as opposed to submerged. Immersed meaning above water, and some people that sometimes when you buy plants, you got to make sure where they're grown immersed or submerged, because once you get them in your aquarium, a lot of the times your plants will just melt away and you won't know, and you'll think it's your problem or your fault, or you did something wrong, so you'll continuously try to fix it. We also have about another 150 tetras to add to this tank, and that would essentially be it. However, it's interesting that how everything's coming together with this aquarium, because none of this sort of would have happened if the piranha tank wasn't ready to be kind of shut down and move on. Obviously, we have a beautiful 16-foot long piranha aquarium now, but then I thought, wouldn't this be awesome to turn into a 700 gallon fully planted Asian arowana tank? And we know how that went. Absolute disaster. It didn't even work out. The thought that I had in my head versus the reality of how it started to shape just didn't kind of match up with each other. So I decided, okay, let's call it quits. We're not going to continue on with this tank. We're going to make it something else. Now you see these two big root structures that are in the tank now. Aqua Decor sent those to me about a year ago, just like as a gift, and I thought, I gotta put these in the 2000, and that was only 5 months ago. However, back in January, they reached out to me and said, hey, can we redo the 2000? And of course I said yes. So I knew this 4 or 5 months ago, that these guys are all going to be coming out, and that's why I knew I could take from the 2000, put them in here, and right around that time, I'd be entering into this contest that's originally hosted by Takashi Amano, the late Takashi Amano, and my favorite aquarium of him of all time was his angelfish tank. So I thought I'd kind of recreate my version of what I would have did if, you know, kind of like I was him. And I think everybody's in agreement. I made the right choice. This looks absolutely phenomenal. It's just a simply gorgeous aquarium. But now that the cat's out of the bag and these plans have been, like, this type of thing doesn't happen overnight, now that you know that I've been working on a few of these tanks for months, I might as well tell you everything that's about to happen. I'm currently draining the 2,000 gallon aquarium because I got to take the background out and finish catching all the little fish. Like there's tetras in there and a cara and whatnot. And we'll be definitely kind of taking those guys out of there. There's even some clown loaches. Tamara wants all of them, in fact. So So they'll be going in her aquariums. And then I can take out all of this background. But what am I going to do with it? It actually looks really good with just the background in it. But I might as well take it out now because when I try to get in there, the fish dart behind the background. There's cracks everywhere and tiny little fish can get back there. And it makes it impossible to capture them. But once I take that out, I can move the Asian arowana back over to it. However, there's this kind of move is going to come with a bit of a catch. Not only are we going to completely also rescape the 2,000 gallon aquarium and make it literally the best version it ever was, I thought to myself, I'm not so sure I want to keep doing just like all the same fish. Now that we're kind of taking out all the smaller guys, the Asian arowana is going back in. I'm not so sure the Severums and obviously the small guys are going to work in this tank long term. Based off of my long term plans, the Geophagus will stay, the Sunshine Pleco will stay, the arowana will go over to that tank, and so will my Bisher. We've had him for quite some time. The Oscars we've had for about 4 years maybe. I think it's just time personally for me to try something a little bit different with this tank, and once you guys find out what I'm doing, you're gonna lose it. With that said, the background here isn't going to be in here anymore. We're taking it out, but I'm going to repurpose it. See how it's 4 feet tall? What if I take it out, and this is longer than 8 feet, the 375 is 8 feet, but what if I took it out, cut it in half, resized it, and put it in this tank? I put the bottom half in it, all along the wall, and then the top half will go all the way up to the rock structure. On the inside, I have another, I don't know if you can see that, I have one more of these massive tree trunks. It's actually a little bigger, and I'm thinking about putting it, well, I'm not thinking, it's already decided, and I'm, in fact, I'll tell you exactly why it's already decided here in a second, but the tree log goes in the center with that beautiful background on the behind it. It would look absolutely gorgeous. However, take out all these rocks and whatnot that's in it right now, because it's clearly just a bit of a holding tank, but what will we do moving forward? What would we stock it with? How would we scape it? I'll be honest, since the Piranha tank and the 700 are doing just so awesome, I really want to turn that into a planted tank as well. The plants are on their way. They'll be here in 2 days. That's why I'm kind of, it's late, it's dark out here. A lot of tanks are shutting off for the night. But as for stocking, a really cool school of schooling tetras. And then, of course, I'm going to definitely need to add in some Siamese algae eaters to deal with the continuous. Let's go in the light so you can see me. Some Siamese algae eaters to deal with the continuous hair algae problem that I'm really good at creating. And then for the main stocking, well, this is where it's going to get crazy. I think it's about time I set up the biggest planted discus aquarium that I've ever done. 375 gallons, 30 discus. 20 to 30 discus, a large school of tetras, and a massive amount of plants. And within a few months, it would just be absolutely glorious. I don't plan to go get the fish for about a month. They're already kind of like almost on order type of deal. So I'd have a month of plant growth. I was hoping for 2 months, but I'll deal with a month. As I'm doing all of this, I'm also hoping, and if I can't remember if I bolted the stand to the wall, and if I did, it's going to be, what I want to do is going to be impossible, but I want to move this tank out 2 feet so that it's not like kind of blocked off right here by this 180. I'm hoping to pull it out by about 2 feet. It'll come out 2 feet, there'll be a foot over here, etc., but it'll just give us a nice, a better look. What's up, guys? And in doing so, at the same time, once I get it pulled out, I'm going to be rebuilding the sump on this tank. That's a huge video and a huge thing that I said I was going to do. I never did it, but I'm about to build my dream sump. I've always thought about doing it. I always wanted to do it. And now I have all of the biological media here to make it happen. So we'll be doing that, probably this week as well, within the next couple of days anyway. So now we're going to move all of these over. And I know what you're going to say, like, how are you supposed to move them? Aren't you supposed to take this out? Well, this is going to be out by the time I move them, but me taking this out, I want to use that to, because I want to do the whole rescape of the 375 all at once, which includes taking this out cutting it up, getting it there, etc., etc. It all makes sense on video. I just want you to know that I'm not adding the Asian arowana or the Oscars to the tank with the little fish. I'm going to do things in reverse and edit it in a way that it happens properly on camera. But let's move the Asian arowana now. This is impossible. Oh, boy. Bastard. So I don't know if anybody remembers what the 2,000 gallon looked like when we originally set it up, but just like this, it had a white background, epoxy paint. There was no sand in it at the time when we originally first did everything, but it looks absolutely wretched. I mean, this, I can't wait for it to be done, but to be fair, the arowana and the fish are just like super contrasting and look absolutely beautiful in this aquarium as is. We do have an Oscar over there laying eggs right now. All the little fish and the sevrums, Tamara took out of here. I'm not so sure long term the Oscars will stay in here. Maybe just the red ones and the blueberry. But the really, really big guys are a huge problem for everyone. Like, they're beating everybody up. But you'll also notice there's a massive pile of biological media. That's because I had to take down the sump, move the tank, rebuild the sump, and it was going to take a couple of days to do it. Like, silicone needs to cure, etc. as I'm building it. And I didn't want it to die, so I just dumped it all in here. So the next thing I got to do here, obviously, this tank, there's nothing I can do, but what I'm going to focus on next is, of course, rescaping the 375, turning it into, like, the ultimate discus aquarium. If you're following me on Instagram, you already saw it. I deleted that, though. Then, of course, redoing the sump. But moving the tank was the most impossible thing for me to do. I'm literally covered in bruises. One of the things I wanted to show you, though, was... I leave the window completely open now because it's giving us free sunlight. But the clips you saw of the 700 earlier in the video were like, I would say like 3-4 days old, maybe even upwards of a week. I don't know if you could tell the difference, but everything's exploding in growth. And the tank is just doing gloriously. Like, for comparison, look at the Amazon swords in the back. This tank is 29 inches tall. And those gotta be, oh boy, at least, this tank is 28 inches tall, but those swords gotta be at least 18, 20 inches tall, I would guess. But yeah, this tank is just looking better and better every day. Free and clear of any algae. Sometimes it looks like a little foggy. That's because of the CO2 being injected into it. Those are tiny, tiny little micro bubbles. At the end of the night, an hour or two before the lights go off, the CO2 shuts off, and the tank just clears up to be crystal clear. Maybe that's when I should start filming. But look at the Siamese algae eaters just going to town on this tank. See them on that stick back there? Not a single piece of hair algae in this tank. But we can also kind of see the various swords that I've planted. Like, some of them are even flowering and doing really good. I do expect some melting, like I do see some here. But if these swords are going to grow, everything else is going to grow. It's going to be just fine. I'm really, really happy with this tank and how it's turning out. But obviously, be a lot cooler with more fish, and we're still going to be adding probably about another 150 or so, give or take, of the black line tetras
Lots of auto sinkless, and that will be it for stocking. Maybe somewheres down the line we can look into other things. I wouldn't mind adding in some, maybe, whiptail cats or something like super interesting and unique for this tank. But yeah, what an awesome aquarium. And I know everybody is saying right now, like, this is my best tank. This is my best tank. No. The discus tank is going to be the next best tank. Just so cool. You guys want to see the piranha tank too? So it's a huge mess out here because I'm moving everything, but we do have some, that's hair algae right there. I'm just letting it grow, and adjusting lighting, and really, I just needed to dose this tank, and I wasn't really dosing it, but the plants are like, you can't see the substrate anymore.
Anyways, that's it for today's video, guys. We got the Asian arowana moved, and we're well on our way to like turning every aquarium into something absolutely amazing. And some people are even saying, oh, just give it time, Joey's gonna rip this apart. The stocking in this, the plants, everything in this is so darn expensive that one, I'm not doing that again. Two, I'm gonna get 3-4 years out of the substrate, if not more. And worst case scenario, I can go ahead and add root tabs to it. There's not a pack of piranhas in there waiting to chew my hands off. But I'm most excited about the discus tank right now. And then, of course, the 2000 is just going to be incredible. Here shortly, though, I want to bring you guys up to speed with a few other projects that I've been working on that has already been filmed. I also want to show you what's been going on with the flower horn and the babies and all the fish and where everything's going, or where everything is, like all the zebrums, the acaras, etc. I know you guys probably want to see them. Stingrays, the fahaka, etc. They're all in the house, and we'll get to that here in video shortly. Hope you enjoyed this one, though. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.